Hello and welcome to my Yugioh channel. Today we're looking at a brand new card coming out of Yugioh Burst of Destiny, which is the brand new booster pack. This is called Zoroa the Magistus Daimon. It's a spellcaster type synchro monster, fire attribute level 8 with 2900 attack and 1500 defense. It requires a spellcaster tuner plus one non-tuner monsters. You can only use the third effect of this card's name once per turn. 1. If this card is synchro summoned, you can equip it with one magistus monster from your extra deck. 2. Your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters of the same type. Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Link as Magistus monster cards in your spell and trap zone. And 3. You can target one Magistus card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon this card from your graveyard. The summoning requirement on this card isn't difficult because they will have spellcaster tuner monsters and non-tuner monsters as well to meet this level. The first effect, as soon as it's synchro summoned, you're able to equip a Magistus monster from the extra deck, which means depending on what your opponent is running, you will rely on equipping that particular monster, and that way with its secondary ability you can stop your opponent from activating any monster of those effects. If they're running a deck which relies on, say, mostly Link summoning or Fusion summoning, you're able to shut those cards down, and they might be in a position where they've got so limited extra deck space they might have only been able to splash a couple of different cards in, and they might not meet the conditions to summon those cards for the time being. The third effect, to just get rid of one of your Magistus monsters to recover this card from the graveyard, means this can continually be used even if it is once per turn. It's got a way of reviving itself, even though it won't still get the first effect off of the third effect. I'm sure there are ways you can cheat this out within its own archetype. Overall, I am very impressed with the design of this card, and there are very few cards with similar effects which can affect any of the types of extra deck monsters. I mean, there are examples of like Grizel Prison, and there are different variations as well as Dimensional Barrier. Each of those have been able to affect certain types of monsters. I think Grizel went all the way up to Exceed, and then you've got the Dimensional Barrier, which was able to affect the next lot of monsters beyond that. But there was always the limitation that it would never proceed into the next extra deck monster because they didn't want to limit the overpowered nature of those cards. They wanted to sell them, so they didn't want to make a counter card at the start of their generations. Instead, they made it at the end of those generations. I think with how Yu-Gi-Oh is now, and because we've got the Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's anime, which is Rush Duels specific, this gives Konami the option to basically affect the game state in however which way they want. They're able to support specific archetypes, various types, and they can give random support without having to focus purely on the main character support, especially since this is a different card game to the Rush Duels mechanics, which gives them that full flexibility. That means now we can be at a point where we can get random cards to support absolutely anything, and as a community I personally think that's great. It allows us to do a lot more of what we want to, and we're able to play much greater varieties of decks as opposed to the top tiers where you would have maybe 2 or 3 competing decks at any one point. And then if you weren't playing anything like that and you were playing Rogue, you could be easily countered. So what do you guys think of this card? Are you impressed with it? Are you happy with the direction that Konami is going with these new structure decks? Or do you think this is a little bit underwhelming for the time being? Whatever you think, leave those comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh content.